Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the highs, lows, and did that really just happen moment of parenting teens and young adults. We're Carrie and Jessica, parent coaches, mythbusters, and occasional referees in the battle of hormones versus common sense.
If you've ever wondered, is this just happening to me? You're not alone. We are here to help you with real talk, expert advice, and hopefully a few laughs along the way. Need more support? We also offer private coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements because sometimes even parents don't have all the answers.
So continue listening as we tackle this parenting journey together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Jessica.
So, whether you've been with us from the beginning or if today is your first time joining us, our goal is always to bring you information and specifically as it pertains to parenting. Two of our listeners, a mother and daughter, were in this debate about AI. Is it making us smarter, or doing the reverse? So, as always, Carrie and I went into our wealth of resources and we found a wonderful expert for our listeners. Today, we have with us Sandy Pesavento. Hi, Sandy.
Hello.
Welcome. We're so happy to have you with us. Sandy is a college professor, and we're going to let her give you a quick intro on her background and tell our listeners what makes her an expert on AI.
Okay, so I'll give you a little bit about my background. I am an instructional technologist. I have been teaching pre-service teachers how to integrate technology into the classroom. I've been doing this quite a long time. I'll start from the beginning. When I started to teach, I taught in our Scranton School District, and eventually went to get my master's degree in instructional technology. When I became certified, technology started taking off. And from there, I began teaching teachers how to integrate technology. Went on to get my master's degree, my doctorate, and became a college professor. So now teaching pre service teachers before they get out into the classrooms how to utilize technologies. I have many years, something I say all the time to my students. I've been doing this before Google was a verb, meaning Google just came out and there were many other platforms. So no one chose specifically Google. But then once it just took off, it became so efficient, it became very fast, and everybody just said, just Google it. So I've been doing it a long time.
I imagine you've seen throughout the years so many different technological advances.
And it's funny because this same controversy seems to come up and we don't even realize it. It's just so cyclical. And it goes back to the calculator. If you even think back in the days where testing was going on and teachers would say, no calculators, don't
Right.
pull your calculators out. It started there and it just keeps going. Wikipedia and now AI, of course. Yeah.
And now you
So
even have a calculator built into the SATs.
exactly. So that everybody finally gives into it. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. I've never thought about it that way, but that's true. So let's just start in layman terms. What is AI? Because I know when I think of AI, all I think about is Chat GPT, and Carrie and I often joke that Chat GPT is our intern,
Yeah, we're like, let's just ask the intern.
but I feel like it's so much more than that. So what is
Right.
AI?
Yeah. So artificial intelligence as we know it, and honestly, artificial intelligence has been around a little longer than we know. And I think we're talking about it more because it's just at our fingertips, all of us now. So, of course, Chat GPT would be the first thing you would think of. Yeah. Okay, so I would say artificial intelligence, and definition wise, we could talk about it being the simulation of human intelligence.
Okay.
And you see it in machines, and it enables us to learn, to reason, to perceive. A simple example
That's
of
good.
it would be Siri or Alexa.
Why do you think there's such a big controversy over whether or not it should be used or should be allowed to be used in classrooms.
Yeah, well, and again, like everything else, I think we need to be taught all this information. But why it's so controversial is because it's that copy paste. Student is asked a question. So what do? They immediately can just copy and paste the question into a tool such as ChatGPT and get the answer. So are they truly learning, or is it just that that regurgitation that they're getting from the screen?
Sure.
So, what would you recommend to your students, right? If that's what you thought that they were doing, right? If you could tell that they just went and copied and pasted, what would your communication with them be so that you're understanding if they're really learning?
Wait, before
Yes.
you answer that, can you tell? Do you know right away?
So there are many tools we use, but those themselves are not always efficient. So we don't know.
If you suspected it, how do you handle that?
Yeah. So if we suspected it, there's so much more to that. There's something prior to that. So first of all, I think universities have to establish what is it that they're expecting of their students. There should be a policy in place. So we know that. So students should know that. And then professors themselves, I believe, should create specific rules of each assignment. I've shared this when I was actually presenting at a conference previously about there's a great tool that I use. It's a stoplight. So I give an assignment and I'll say, so this assignment I'm going to say is green. You can go ahead and utilize AI as much as you want with this assignment. And maybe I'd give another assignment that would have a yellow light. And this one, I want you to use it, but cautiously. And I want you to make sure you're researching all that information before you give us this information back. And then I may say, red, no AI at all. And I'll know if you used it, and to guide the students in a way. So I think that could be a tool that you can utilize that way. But so I think it starts with the teacher, what their expectations are. Right. But if there's just a general assignment that someone gives, there are many ways of us looking into seeing, well, did they use it? You can tell sometimes the voice, unless there's another tool, humanize it, that they'll take the information they get from AI, then they put it in something else. So, sometimes we could see it. It's the way, if you get to know your students,
Mhm.
is it their voice that you're hearing? And many of us get to know them and know that it's not their voice.
Sure, that makes sense. What about what's your what are your feelings about using AI during applications or on
Your
so
resume.
your resume to help you build a resume? Or I know that we just got through with my youngest filling out college applications, and you know people say sure it's not, make sure the college advisors will know or the admissions officers will know if the personal statement is written through AI. So what are your feelings on that being used that way?
So my feelings on that are, if the student or the person uses it, but puts their personal belief in this and they write it, they're just asking them to clean it up. I don't feel there's anything wrong with that. But I would have them sit on a Word doc and write everything out. If it's a statement or something, utilizing their own beliefs, their own information, and then to go to AI to, use it to help enhance it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, in my opinion.
Right,
Mhm.
sure. I
All
think a
right.
lot of what we hear also is, especially have one in college still, or at this point, we have one there. And one of the things we hear from college age students is that the professors use it all the time, like to make their lesson plans and whatever else. Why can't we use it? What do you
Yeah.
say to that?
So, well, I think it's such a great tool for teachers to use it. And in a way, so for teachers to help them write lesson plans, to help them grade, I think it's a great tool for that. Think it's actually, I believe in the next 5 to 10 years, what you're seeing in the change of things, is that we can use it for that. That saves us time, but then us being able to utilize it to the teaching aspect, to do that creativity, to teach higher order thinking skills, to build activities and assignments that use problem solving. So
Mm.
I think all of that's still going to be there if the teacher knows how to use it in the right way. So I think if teachers use it for those little tasks, I don't think there's anything wrong. It'll be quicker. Years and years, our students are writing lesson plans, and that's a ton of work, right? So
Mm.
we're
Yeah.
looking at the objectives and the procedures and the assessments and the
Hmm.
differentiation. So if we can have, AI help us develop what are our objectives and help them create that, I think that's a great tool. But now let's build in that human, like all those human aspects that AI can't do. That's the part where we want to spend our time, and we want the kids to spend their time.
That's really interesting because as I was a teacher in my former life, so going through the process of, like you just said, writing, it can save time and give the teacher the opportunity to be more creative. I like that
Exactly.
perspective.
Yeah. And I think, again, it depends. If we have someone that's more, lazy and wants to just constantly use it in that manner that then and don't get creative, we probably will see that, which is sad. But then those that want to be creative and want, to tap into those higher order thinking skills, gosh, you could do so much.
Yeah.
And are there in the college setting, in the university setting, are there any majors that are not using AI at this time or will not be? Is this something that everyone who wants to and has the desire to go to college will need to know?
Everyone will need to know. Absolutely.
So back when we needed typing to be able to go to more advanced degrees or
So
basic computer skills.
yeah, it's digital literacy. Again, I had mentioned that I had taught teachers before teaching the pre-service teachers. And years ago, when I would be teaching them new skills, new how to use a new tool, and I mentioned this like use Wikipedia or something, anything I taught them, or maybe a new software that we had implemented in the school district. I actually had teachers that filed grievances against me, teaching them how to use a tool because they thought that the technology was going to take their job away from them, and they were giving me resistance. So you're always going to see that resistance. But yes, yes.
You bring up an interesting point, though. I feel like that's something that we are hearing around the buzz of AI, that AI will be replacing certain jobs. Do you see that as a possibility?
No, there's going to be changes. So jobs will change, and they constantly do. We've been talking about this for years. Actually, even when I wrote my dissertation, I remember writing this in it, that we as educators are preparing our students for jobs that aren't even created yet. And that's the truth right now. And that will constantly be the truth because of the technology tool. So
Hmm.
the jobs are just going to keep changing. So it's the same field, but it's going to look a little different. So it's so important for our students to know how to utilize AI and know the tools that are out there so that they can better, use it.
Yeah, for job enhancement, really.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Right. So I know. So this mother daughter that actually reached out to us, and one of their debates was around kids younger, than I think she's in her early 20s, but like, okay, people in middle school now, like, they don't know how to do research, right? So some skills, even though we're saying AI is a really good, efficient tool to use to get information to then put things in your own words, but is there something that's going to be missed or a skill not going to be taught because we're using these efficiency tools? Like that was their debate, where obviously the 20 something was like, no, you're wrong, mom. And she's like, I think you're going to be missing out. Younger kids are going to be missing out on certain skills. What do you
Again, I think it's the change. And I think we definitely have to teach our students how to research. Using AI makes you, I believe if you do take your information and you do put it in it and you get information back, you can't just regurgitate that still. You need to go research and find out what is the information I'm getting. For instance, I do utilize it to help me create lessons. And at the beginning of the semester, I was creating a lesson, and it gave me some wonderful ideas of what to teach my pre service teachers. And I thought, wow, this looks great. And I asked it, please give me the links to the references from this information. And it actually put links in it. I thought, wow. I went to look at the links, they were fictitious. It wasn't even real. So you have to go that next step. And that was the same with Wikipedia. I remember years ago when students would use Wikipedia and put it as a resource or cites as they were citing their sources. Like, don't ever cite Wikipedia. Drill down, go to the bottom of the page, then find it, go look for that, then read about that, learn about that. Now you're talking about it. It's a shortcut to gaining that information. You have to know where it came from, and if you have to look at the credibility. And that's the digital literacy that they need to know how to do. So I don't believe it's taking that away from them if they do it properly and still do the research. You still have to teach them research.
I think right there what you said is so important and so key, doing it properly like anything else. I think what's lost on the younger generations in school now is looking for shortcuts. While this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sandy, but while AI can make things quicker for you, give you information faster, you still have to verify all the information that you were given.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, so how do you fact check? You put whatever the prompts were into ChatGPT. I mean, I know you said drill down and go to the sites or the resources. Is there any other way for us to fact check that that's actually factual what it's telling us?
Right, right. So for me as a professor here, we always use our library databases. So they're going and putting information there. So you Google Scholar, so it depends. What are they looking for? What are they finding? I think we're so hung up on that regurgitation process, but I think if you give your students assignments that are using that higher order thinking and asking them to create something and develop something and build something, and that collaboration, that working together, I think that's where you're going to see a lot of their knowledge. So that if you're going back to the research part, you have to know where to go. You have to teach them that. So to fact check would be credible sources, databases, Google Scholar, any of those sources. We have to start from that. But otherwise, I think different assignments and using different skills can help us still gain a lot of information that we want to see them. So things are just going to change in that.
I think about what you're saying, and to me, I feel like, let's just take, for example, when you're in school and you're learning how to outline something and you put in all of the information, and that was a tool for us. And AI feels like it's going to work in a little bit of the same way. It's just that it's a tool. It's not meant to replace anything, but just like with all technology, it's kind of just speeding up the research process.
That's exactly right.
Or it's the organizer, right? It
Mhm.
feels like the organizer, which
Right.
Yes.
So I'm curious, how are you teaching teachers to use it as a tool in their classroom?
Again, going back to helping them develop those lessons.
Right. Okay.
And then yeah, and building those other skills. And I'll can't say it enough that I think we're the ones that are going to be doing the engagement, the activities, all of that.
Sure.
So, but just using it as a tool to help guide them, to help plan, to help make those lessons, those lesson plans and things of that nature.
and what would you recommend to parents who have students still at home? They're not in college, pre-college years, but on safety. What can parents communicate to their teenagers about using these tools and ethics and safety?
Yeah, and this with
The ethics is
digital
a big one.
literacy. Yeah. So I think parents should start by talking with their kids about being good digital citizens. That's something, for years now, you see kids just being handed an iPad or a tool at a very young age. And no one really talks about the digital citizenship, starting with ways to be safe, respectful, and not harm others. Because students can say things just through text and that can really hurt someone. So I think we start there before even the AI is discussed. And then from there I think it's important to build that strong digital literacy, especially when using AI, right? So I think they need to know and understand about privacy, that nothing is private, even postings on social media. It's there a split second, it's there, it's out there, right? Bias. I always share with my students that bias chart, like where the information we're gaining about the middle and, both sides. We have to think about the bias. We have to think about misinformation that's there, as we mentioned, and know that AI can be wrong or misleading. Like I just gave that example that it happened to me. And I was ready to give this assignment out. And then I'm looking and I'm thinking that it wasn't even a true, it wasn't credible at all. So we need to think about that. They also shouldn't become overly dependent on it, because that's something I think they're so used to getting that instantaneous feedback.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I could just put it in there. And so I think we have to be careful with that. So talking with them, our young children, and then helping them think critically and use AI responsibly, to help set them up and for smarter use of technology overall, not just AI.
I have to say, using it for research, I think it is a wonderful tool. I think it is getting scary to see how human-like it has become and how easy it is to mimic someone else's voice and face, and is there anything about that parents should know? Like, is that something that our kids will even be able to do? I imagine yes, if it's out there, on social media, that our kids will pick things up a lot quicker than we do.
Yeah,
I feel like it
you're
becomes a whole new source for cyberbullying, or identity theft, anything.
It absolutely does, and I think that's why we have to learn. I do believe there's a real danger. It sounds so confident, when it's even when it's wrong, right? They need to learn how to fact check, like we said. They need to verify information, cross checking, and you're right. I think younger students have that thought process that we don't. Because you're right, and the older generation thinks. I know, like my mother's age or older people see something and they think this is really happening. I know they just showed today in class, they showed like a young baby and then a bear coming up, as if it's true. Or they showed bunny rabbits jumping on a trampoline, things that they're just putting together.
Sandy,
So
you're
we
talking
see
about your mom. It's happened to me. I've shown them I was like, "Look at this video." I've said to my kids, and like, "Mom, that's AI. That's not real."
it's
But
AI.
they look so real. Obviously not the dogs talking. I know that that's AI. But just certain scenarios that could happen, and you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh my gosh, look at this. It's unbelievable." But most things will have the disclaimer at the bottom that say
that's
made
right.
purely for entertainment, or this is made by AI. And there, I guess, are now AI companies that put out these videos. And it's just really, I feel
Yes.
like I'm at the age like when my grandparents were introduced to the VCR and they didn't know how to operate it. That's
That's
sometimes what I feel like with all this technology.
Yeah, and it's not going to stop. But I do believe teaching them to question and confirm helps them use AI safely. Again, I think that their brain's just going to know that, and they are going to constantly question it or think, this is AI.
It's crazy. Well, AI, I'm sure, is here to stay, and it's only going to become more evolved over time.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
can't imagine what will be next. Just
Yeah. I think the teens also need to know about like algorithms that influence their feeds, right? Because they need to know that when they start typing something in, that they're going to continually see this same algorithm, and it's going to
Sure.
prompt them with things, and
That's
it can
important.
distort, like you said, identity, self-image, all of that too, which is quite scary. So I think they need to think before they post. Again, that digital literacy that we talked about and the digital citizenship, all of that's super important.
And
Right.
is that something that is now taught? I know you're teaching people who want to be educators on how to use, but in the lower levels of education, elementary, middle school, do you know if teachers are actually not just taught the tools, but what is safe for the emotional level of the students that they're teaching? And is that part of any curriculum?
Yeah, so that's the ISTE standards, the International Society of Technology of Education. Those are now embedded in a lot of the curriculum that we do use. And part of that is that digital citizenship. It should be, and it is. I think it's growing much more. It's funny, again, back to when I start teaching teachers, mentioned the ISTE standards, and the teachers didn't even know what they were. But now all the teachers know what the ISTE standards are. And so you're seeing it embedded in these lessons. So they should be. And I think somewhere we chatted about the importance of other subject areas, but technology is right there. It's got to be taught. That's why it truly is embedded in many
Mhm.
of these curriculum.
It sounds like technology is right up there with reading and math now. I mean, it just sounds like
Yeah.
that's the way our younger generations will begin to learn and manage the world around them.
That's right. Of course, reading and math will always be at the top because we have to learn, how to read. We always say from birth to age 8, we learn how to read, that from age 8 on, we read to learn. But that technology literacy is right there. It's right
Sure.
after it, for sure.
And, for those of us, so Sandy is also the mom to 4 girls and about to be a grandmother to her 10th grandbaby. So, I'm
Can't
just
wait.
curious, are these discussions you have ongoing with your children and grandchildren?
They absolutely are. We talk about it all the time. Yes. And they come to me with questions. I go to them with questions. I've actually used a lot. I specifically remember talking about how our teens are constantly on their phones and they're in front of them. And it's funny because I've snapped a picture. The one day I looked around the room and everybody in the room was just head down in the
Your head on the
phone,
phone.
no conversation going on. I took that picture and that was the way I started out one of my presentations, was talking of, look at this picture and going off on that. So yes, they're a huge part of my world. And yeah, when we talked about issues like with AI and just some of the opinions that kids have and can text and be hurtful and harmful, of course, it hits home very hard for me having these grandchildren and not wanting them to go through something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. And one more question about using AI. Can it be helpful for students, like in replacement of tutoring? Is there some sort of AI assistance maybe with students who might need extra assistance and help?
My goodness, absolutely. They can have AI tools can really support struggling students. They can break things down, give instant feedback, offer extra practice. But again, and you want to go find the proper tools. We were just talking about one of the math tools that the students use, that they're just taking a picture of a math problem and it will give you the steps that you should follow to solve that problem. So, as long as the students are using it in the right way. So, if they're using it as a tutor to take that, so you remember us years ago learning how do we solve these problems? And the teacher would give you an example. Well, this is perfect because you can put the problem there, but you've got to use it in the right way, that we keep teaching ourselves. Oh, that's how you do that, and practice, right? And if it can break it down step by step, is all the better. So many tools out there. Math is huge. Language support tools that can translate, simplify text, even the English language learners, building confidence with reading and writing. study aids. I know even my pre-service teachers are using like flashcards for practicing for the praxis test that they're taking to become teachers, many review materials. So there
You
are
could
so
just
many.
say, make me a study guide for this. And there
Exactly.
are tools out there that will take the professor's lecture notes and make a study guide from that.
Absolutely. So many great things you can do now. I know there's even a wonderful AI tool out there now. If you go and find, you're on specific topic that you are doing research on. So you're using a library database, you're getting a bunch of articles, you upload the articles in it. It will actually turn it into a podcast for you, and it will summarize all of those articles. And so you can, work out, you can be doing what you want to do and listen to it. So the
Wow.
auditory, it's a tool I wish was around when I was writing my dissertation, that's for sure.
So,
So many great things.
so to sum it up, okay, I feel like AI gets a bad rap because parents or other educators makes the student using it seem as if they're lazy because they're taking a quick route
Or that they're cheating, or
or
that
that
they're
they're
talking about
cheating.
cheating, taking a shortcut. Yeah.
But if used correctly, it does have the potential to be an excellent resource. Just like as we
Absolutely.
used encyclopedias when we were kids doing reports. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just faster.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that, Sandy? Is that
100% yes. Yes. Yes.
so? I guess the message to parents would be don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So work alongside your child to learn how to use it as a research tool, not as a lazy shortcut, but just to help guide you.
Absolutely. If I were to give students one piece of advice for thriving in an AI driven world, it would be to use it as support, not substitute for thinking. And that's it. It's not you don't want it to think for them. You want it to be supportive. They need to be curious, ask good questions,
Mhm.
and don't be afraid to explore these tools. And again, this is something that it's just very cyclical with any new technology tool.
Mm, it's really interesting. Sandy, thank you so much for being with us today. I think you gave us a lot to think about and a lot for our parents to think about. If any of our listeners have any questions for you regarding it, is there a way they can contact you or ask you a question?
Absolutely. They can email me at sapesavento@marywood.edu.
Okay,
I'd
we'll
be
put that
happy
in our
to
link.
answer anything. Perfect.
Awesome. Sandy, thank you again. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to our listeners. If you have any questions for Sandy, you can reach out to her there, or you can drop us a note at info@parentcoachesunleashed.com, and we will be sure to get back to you with whatever it is. And keep the topics coming. We're so thankful to our listeners for bringing this topic to our attention, and that's how we get you more interesting topics, by engaging with our listeners. So thank you.
All right. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks for being here.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.